turbofan, but it offers improved fuel consumption, greater range. Of course, there's some improvements in the electronic countermeasures of the aircraft, some of the weapon suites, certainly the fire control system is different. If you will, it is the ultimate evolution of the series of the B-52 airplane.
The cockpit of the B-52 is reminiscent of the older bombers or jet airliners, with a massive throttle control for the aircraft's 8 engines. But over the years, the instrument panel has changed with technology. The biggest improvements have been today's B-52s primarily use electronic countermeasure systems for self-protection.
I'm part of the defensive team to defend the aircraft against various threats, and that can be threats such as surface-to-air missiles or anti-aircraft artillery. To defeat those threats or to defend against them, we use various electronic equipment along with expendables such as chaff and flare systems.
Despite its advanced defensive capabilities, the greatest threat to the B-52 would prove to be the march of time. But once more, innovation would come to the plane's defense. In 2002, the B-52 celebrated its 50th anniversary. It's the longest-serving combat aircraft in the world, yet it's never been used in its original role, delivering nuclear weapons in combat. Instead, from Vietnam to Iraq, the B-52 has proven itself an invaluable conventional weapon. Shortly before the fall of the Soviet Union, the Strategic Air Command issued a report on nuclear war planning called the Phoenix Study. Citing advances in submarine-launched ballistic missiles, the study suggested that submarines and ICBMs alone could form a nuclear twin triad, with strategic bombers mainly providing backup. With less emphasis on nuclear deterrence, the B-52 evolved into a multi-role bomber. Today, the U.S. Air Force maintains a small force of B-52H bombers configured to deliver a wide range of conventional and nuclear weapons.
The concept of the manned bomber is really because it gives us a lot of flexibility and capability to operate in all spectrums of conflict. And although our primary mission here is nuclear, a B-52 can adapt very quickly to the conventional arena. That's where our training will continue to focus, is the capability to really do both missions.
A conventional bombing run requires different training and tactics from a nuclear strike.
I think probably one of the more significant differences is the number and variety of weapons that the airplane can carry in a conventional scenario. Typically, in the standard role of the B-52, we're talking about a one-pass, pinpoint, usually one weapon release, as opposed to in a conventional, multi-ships going against a target, perhaps from several different axes of attack, so as to get total coverage and destruction of the target area. That in itself is a more difficult coordination process for the air crew and for the other air crews in the other aircraft.
The B-52's value in conventional missions lies in two key traits: its heavy payload and its long range. The B-52 has a range of nearly 9,000 miles, but it can fly non-stop around the globe by means of aerial refueling. The innovation of aerial refueling led to the creation of a large fleet of tanker aircraft. The KC-135 Stratotanker entered service in 1957 and is strikingly similar to the renowned Boeing 707 jetliner. Like the B-52, the KC-135 has been in active duty for several decades, undergoing continual modification.
With the KC-135R model, we have improved the capabilities of the KC-135 aircraft by giving them bigger engines, more thrust available. It allows us to take off with more fuel than the old A model, and also we burn less fuel, so we're more efficient. We can fly farther and offload more gas.
The B-52 has a refueling receptacle on the fuselage above the cockpit. To refuel, the B-52 pilot carefully maneuvers his aircraft to a precise spot behind and below the KC-135. Then the boom operator in the tanker cautiously lowers the refueling boom. During refueling, nearly 1,000 gallons flow down the boom every minute, a ton of fuel every 20 seconds.
The challenges I face is if we have any turbulence, weather conditions that prohibit a smooth contact. I always want to get a real smooth contact with the receiver so you don't basically scratch your name in his paint or hit him in any way, windshield. You got to fly the boom around, make sure it's controlled real smoothly. You don't want to overextend to get to a receiver. You want to keep him pretty close to you, but not too close. We have 4 pumps we can turn on to use to refuel the aircraft, and it basically depends on the size of the aircraft. If it's a heavy, we can use all 4 pumps, a heavy being like a B-52, C-5, whereas a fighter, sometimes we can only use 1 or 2 of the pumps to refuel them. It takes usually 5 to 10 minutes to give them their gas.
By extending a B-52's range indefinitely, tankers have helped prolong the bomber's very existence. For over half a century, the B-52 Stratofortress has been like a chameleon, adapting to new roles and technologies through ever-changing political climates. From the Vietnam War to Operation Iraqi Freedom, the B-52 continues to serve. Ironically, a 1991 peace treaty nearly ground the bomber for good. During the Gulf War in 1991, the venerable B-52 undertook one of its most secret and arduous missions since its inception. The assignment: to destroy key Iraqi facilities using conventionally armed LCOMs and pave the way for additional strikes by short-range strike fighters. Flying round-trip from Barksdale, Louisiana to Iraq, B-52Gs traveled more than 14,000 miles non-stop for 35 hours, at the time the longest combat mission in history. Following these missile strikes came conventional bomb attacks by B-52 units based in Europe and off the coast of Sri Lanka. Though the Air Force used precision-guided bombs for many targets, it relied on the massive payload of the B-52s to take out heavy targets, such as the sprawling chemical plant at El Cayam. As a defensive tactic, the B-52s typically flew in groups of 3 called a cell. Early in the war, missions were flown at night and at low altitude. Once the Iraqi Air Force was destroyed, high-altitude missions became possible. During Desert Storm, B-52Gs dropped more than 30% of the bombs delivered, yet it was the last combat mission of this model.
Historically, our primary mission has been nuclear deterrence, and that's where a lot of our training has been to have the capability to perform that mission if necessary. However, with the changing world conditions, the B-52 is moving more towards the conventional arena, where we can be used to diffuse world tensions as needed at any level of conventional conflict.
Soon after Desert Storm, the United States and Russia signed the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, a seeming death sentence for the venerable B-52. Virtually all active B-52s were ordered destroyed. Only the latest model, the B-52H, survived.